Hi, I'm Tracy Townsend, and I will be bringing you the top stories from around Columbus this week. We continue to follow the case of 16 Vinton County children rescued from conditions that authorities have described as deplorable. 4 members of the Siders family have been charged with 16 counts of child endangerment. We talk with the former prosecutor about what to expect next in the case and how you can help the children. Plus, drivers are reacting to a new state law that changes the information you need to tell police when you get pulled over. Why supporters say it's a safety issue, but critics say it goes too far. And people in Delaware are pushing back on plans to close a hospital unit. You'll hear from nurses and mothers about what could happen when the county's only labor and delivery unit closes. Let's dive into these stories and more making headlines across Central Ohio.
This is the type of case that many prosecutors would not want to handle because you're dealing with kids, and anytime you have child victims, that's the worst.
That's former Vinton County prosecutor and common pleas judge Jim Payne. He says all 4 Siders waiving Tuesday's preliminary hearings isn't unusual, explaining defense attorneys
don't want to rush into hearings that they're not prepared for. They have to make sure that they get all the evidence that's available so that they can provide a proper defense for their clients.
He expects the next step will be a grand jury, where prosecutors present their evidence and ask jurors whether there's enough to formally charge the defendants.
It's relatively low bar. That's probably what's happening at this point. They're probably pulling the names of potential grand jurors.
If the grand jury agrees,
then it goes to the indictment. They'll have another arraignment.
For now, investigators are still building the case.
Investigators will need to track down where did they live, are there any witnesses there, any other cases.
Payne, who spent more than 2 decades as a criminal defense attorney, says defense attorneys are doing the same. On Tuesday, Elizabeth Siders' attorney said he's looking into whether she could be a victim as well.
Her case is potentially different. Out of all 4, that would be the one that I would have the most questions about.
Payne expects the 4 Sider defendants will be tried separately, and in the case of jury trials, says jurors may have to be pulled from outside Vinton County.
It's going to be, in my view, very difficult to seat a full panel for a jury trial for just one of these cases.
Payne stresses the legal process is only beginning.
The truth will come out. We are looking easily probably a year or more before this case will work out.
The discovery of 16 children living in squalor inside this Hamden house sent shockwaves through Vinton County.
It hurt my heart.
Are you hearing from a lot of people asking, what can we do? Can we organize something?
Yes, because I'm usually the person that organizes something.
Emily Janey lives in nearby Wilkesville. She organized a gathering tonight for her neighbors to come together and process.
Kind of support the first responders and the family, mostly the children, because everybody wants to help.
But right now, the state is asking people to be patient when it comes to financial donations. They say dozens of people from across the U.S., even Canada, have offered to help, but they're still working out the logistics. People who want to help can call 740-772-7451 or visit our 10TV website. Meanwhile, the Ohio Network of Children's Advocacy Centers is preparing to help the children with mental health needs.
Different children need different modalities of healing, but some of that might look like play therapy, some of it might look like EMDR therapy, but we're certainly going to always meet the child where they are.
They can also provide professionals to help interview the children as the case moves through the court process.
It's trauma-informed and it's actually recorded, so there are cases where that forensic interview then will be played in court. And also the forensic interviewer can, when appropriate, serve as an expert witness then in the case. That forensic interview is led by that child. So if at any sort if at any point in time that child says that they do not want to proceed at that time, it's child driven and it's trauma informed.
I still can't believe it.
Angie Brown lives right next to the tracks where Sunday night 19 rail cars derailed, one of them carrying hydrochloric acid. She says she saw and heard it all.
You can always tell when there's a train going by, but the house started shaking violently, and me and my boyfriend knew right away. I mean, that's not normal.
At one point, residents within a mile were evacuated, Crawford County officials say, out of concern for a potential acid leak.
Living next to the tracks, it's always in the back of your mind if something like that could happen, but you don't really think it's going to.
The evacuation order was lifted at 11 o'clock this morning. Officials say no leak was found and no one was hurt.
Railroad responded quickly, and I thought their cleanup crews did a very professional job.
Yeah, I'd say we're lucky. Definitely. I mean, it didn't go into the garage or anything. It didn't get our cars.
There's no word yet on the cause of the derailment. Residents saying they're happy to be back home safe.
I just thank the Lord that we're all alive and the pets are good and everyone in the neighborhood is okay.
Cars were bumper to bumper after the fireworks as drivers waited in slow-moving lines to get out of the parking lot. Matthew Spiegel was one of them.
We set up chairs on the back of my truck. We were just enjoying a popsicle right there, just hanging out.
But Matthew says the night changed in an instant.
We noticed a group of guys get into the car right next to us in the very back corner of the parking lot. And there was nowhere to go. Traffic wasn't moving at all, but they backed out anyways and kind of tried to wedge themselves into this line of cars.
Police say a man, his girlfriend, and their young children were cut off by the car. Records show the man got out of his car and started yelling at the driver, who was identified as Derek Apong. His brother Elvis Apong also in the car. Witnesses say the situation quickly escalated.
We just heard a bunch of gunshots. Holy cow, shots, drop.
Moments later, 911 calls for help came flooding in.
Someone just pulled out a gun and shot from their car. We got a guy down. There was a shooting. I don't know the building, but right next to Circleville fireworks.
Matthew says chaos unfolded in the parking lot.
By the time we got there was already several people there helping keep pressure on his wounds.
This police body camera video shows the moments officers found the victim. He was shot multiple times.
The whole time when we were trying to help him out, she was yelling, "That's my boyfriend, that's my boyfriend."
Both brothers were taken out of the car and arrested.
Nah, dude, or you're gonna get shot.
The shooting remains under investigation. Reporting in Westerville, Krista McFarland, 10 TV News.
The rules of the road are changing, and not everyone is happy about it.
I think that's pretty unfair. As a passenger, you shouldn't have to do anything you don't want to do.
That's kind of crazy. It's like an invasion of privacy.
They're talking about a new Ohio law that requires drivers and passengers to provide their name, date of birth, and address when pulled over by law enforcement. Supporters say there's a good reason for it.
If there are more than one individual in the car, it's for officer safety. They ask them, some may have an outstanding warrant that they wouldn't know about just by running the plate.
I spoke to a defense attorney who sees the law as government overreach.
If you invoke your Fifth Amendment right about name, address, or date of birth, I believe there's going to be some court challenges as to which controls, because as this law is written, there's not a Fifth Amendment constitutional right to withhold that information.
So you think there's going to be potentially some legal fights down the road about this, the way this law is written?
I would bet the farm and the tractor on it.
While some in the public believe passengers shouldn't have to reveal any information to police, supporters also see their side of the story and also admit the law could face legal hurdles ahead.
And I assume that there will be challenges to this by those individuals who hold that belief. But again, we're dealing with officer safety and even the driver's safety. If somebody who he has as a passenger in his car may not know everybody, may not know that that person has an outstanding warrant for a violent offense.
Those who knew Tobias Forsyth, a Gahanna Lincoln graduate, are remembering him after he died in a crash early Sunday morning.
He was an amazing kid. He was someone of great character.
Trainer Seth Miller worked out with Tobias Forsyth, who friends knew as Toby, just days before he was killed. Toby played soccer at Ashland University before transferring to Shawnee State and then UMass Lowell.
He was always smiling, but had an amazing work ethic, as he also would push himself, but also push others as well.
Court records say the 21-year-old died when a semi-truck rear-ended his car on the highway. After hitting the car, records say the driver of the semi went through a cable barrier, crossed the median, and drove into the opposite lanes of I-71. Police identified the driver as 42-year-old Behzad Ajrov. He's charged with tampering with evidence. Records say he removed a dash camera from the truck and put it in his pocket.
If you were to have a camera in your vehicle and you were involved in an accident, and it's possible that you were negligent in that accident, or particularly in a case where somebody was injured, that dash camera can become evidence.
This crash drawing attention from the federal level. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy posted to X saying in part, "We cannot let truckers like Ajrov, who can't read our road signs or speak to law enforcement, drive 80,000-pound rigs on America's highways." The secretary went on to say he's praying for Toby's family.
Ajrov is currently being held in the Tri-County Jail in Mechanicsburg. Catherine Simon, 10 TV News.
Naaman Joshua has already been banned from pools in Delaware County and Franklin County. Now a Marysville judge has banned him from pools here.
Can you think of anything that someone might even think of like that?
No. I was at the pool. I was just hanging out at the pool. I go there. I've been going to that pool for years.
Oh, okay.
This is body-worn camera video from Delaware police taking Naaman Joshua into custody around 9 p.m. Wednesday. Marysville police say on Tuesday, a young boy told pool staff Joshua cornered him in a locker room, exposed himself, and made obscene gestures towards the boy.
Through technology that we have around the city, we were able to identify him. And during the course of that identification, we learned of the previous acts in other jurisdictions around Central Ohio, which were very similar in nature to what had occurred here.
A woman who was at the pool on Tuesday sent me a message not wanting to be on camera, but she said in part, "I watched him all day because he was alone and never moved towards the pool. I had a bad feeling all afternoon, but never did anything." She said she wished she would have contacted pool staff earlier. In 2023, I Told You, Hilliard police arrested Joshua for indecent exposure and disorderly conduct after he was accused of walking around completely naked at the Hilliard Aquatic Center. He was found guilty and was banned from public pools in Franklin County. He'd already been banned from pools in Delaware County. You said you saw my story from back in 2023. What went across your mind when you saw the story, knowing what he's accused of doing here?
Well, it's obviously very concerning. It was of a benefit to us because it gave us an ability to be able to reach out to other jurisdictions and get some of that information.
Chief Tony Brooks says it's likely there are more incidents and is asking all parents to talk to their kids about Joshua and stranger danger. Mom Angel Williams says she will talk with her kids, and she's proud of the boy for coming forward.
Kudos to him. I mean, seems like his family did a great job in raising him and telling him exactly what to do. So brave. I'd like to think my kids would do the same thing. I hope they would never be put in that situation.
Joshua is being charged with 3 felonies. A judge gave him a $500,000 bond and told him if he wants to get out of jail, he has to pay the full amount. In Marysville, Lacey Crisp, 10 TV News.
Who would think somebody would want to destroy a church?
But state fire investigators believe somebody did.
You can see here on the floor, it looked like they started a fire here.
This week, Pastor Russell Farley,
because that's burnt right there,
got his first look inside since the fire.
You can see the charcoal burn here. They set a fire here.
The sanctuary silenced after music equipment was destroyed. The speakers have melted, but the memories have not.
But this is the stage where we sang, me and my brothers. We sang for a long time, ever since we were kids.
Every room, down every hall, even bathrooms, burned.
We had a trash can sitting here. It looks like they caught it on fire. Burned a big hole in the floor. This chair was in that corner. But this is where our tables were set up and we had our food.
For about 3 years, this was their fellowship hall.
You can still feel the water under your feet.
Already having moved from several locations, this was finally a place neutral ground could call their own.
That affects me more than anything. is the time and energy that people put into the church.
They may salvage a few tables and chairs, but not much else. The walls have to come out. The devastation is widespread. But as they rebuild, so is their determination and spirit.
There's always going to be evil, but they're always going to be good with God.
Across Ohio, libraries are having to do more with less.
So we have this predicament where our state funding has been reduced by more than $25 million. And then the demand for services and inflation is growing for our public libraries.
The money was cut when lawmakers changed how libraries were funded. It went from a percentage of the general revenue fund to a line item appropriation in the state budget. Libraries say the result will mean people will need to wait longer for some materials.
Some of our libraries have actually cut back on services. They've cut back on their purchasing. One of those key areas that we've seen is actually in digital materials. And trust me, that demand for digital materials, whether it be ebooks or audiobooks, has drastically grown. And so one of the things that we've seen some of our libraries do is either eliminate or reduce their memberships or subscription services.
The Ohio Library Council, which represents Ohio's public library systems, says expect more libraries to place levies on the November ballot to make up for the lost funds.
We can't put an income tax levy on the ballot. We can't increase sales tax. We don't have inside millage like our other local government partners. We don't receive casino revenue. We don't receive cannabis revenue.
Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
More safe maternity units are essential, not less.
For Delaware mom Monica DeToda, this fight is personal.
Because my son Nick was born at Grady Memorial Hospital during an emergency that showed our family just how important access to maternity care can be. Local maternity care.
She says without Grady, her story could have ended differently.
Delivering at home, delivering in the back of an ambulance, delivering on the side of 23 while trying to make it to Riverside.
And now she fears other families will soon face that possibility.
Childbirth is such a sacred experience. It's more than just giving birth in a hospital, it's giving birth in a place where you feel safe.
That's why dozens rallied outside the hospital on Thursday, hoping to stop Delaware County's only labor and delivery unit from closing.
Making babies arrive in ambulances instead of delivery rooms doesn't make sense.
The Ohio Nurses Association says Ohio Health promised to keep maternity care at Grady and wants the Attorney General to decide whether it can legally close the unit.
This is bigger than Grady. If healthcare corporations can make promises to acquire community hospitals and then later break those promises without consequences, every community hospital in Ohio is at risk.
Ohio Health says the decision is based on patient care, noting deliveries at Grady have dropped 23% since 2019. The health system also says it continues to honor the spirit of the 2005 operating agreement. Still, those here concerned that as Central Ohio grows, maternity care is shrinking, forcing mothers in Delaware County and beyond to travel further for care when minutes matter.
We're trying to prevent another maternity care desert in Ohio from being created.
That's a wrap on this week's edition of Around Columbus, your look at the stories shaping Central Ohio. Thanks for spending time with us. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget, you can always get the latest updates on the go with the free 10 TV News app.